Welcome to The Link. This is a program all about linking you with the resources in your community. I'm Joni Sutter. For over 100 years, the Salvation Army's adult rehabilitation centers have provided spiritual, social, and emotional assistance for men and women who have lost the ability to cope with their problems and provide for themselves. Centers offer residential housing, work, group and individual therapy, all in a clean, wholesome environment. The physical and spiritual care that participants receive prepares them to re-enter society and return to gainful employment. Many of those who have been rehabilitated are reunited with their families and resume a normal life. Each participant is provided with a clean and healthy living environment, good food, work therapy, leisure activities, counseling, spiritual direction, and resources to develop life skills and a personal relationship with God. The Salvation Army does not solicit government funding for this program, and it is made possible through those who donate goods that are sold in its family thrift stores to provide services that are made available to the participants of the program. Let's take a look.
My name is Brandon Michael Grotowski. My position here at ARC, I'm a beneficiary, but I'm trying to work up to an employee. My upbringing was awful. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was pretty much a prostitute. She ran the streets. She was addicted to cocaine. I was pretty much neglected. I felt that I needed to be under the influence of some substance in order to be around people in a social environment. I was probably about 8, 9 years old when I started drinking. Probably around 10, I started experimenting with cocaine. I just never thought anything of life, and I pretty much gave up before I even started. It was to the point that I was homeless. I was doing things that morally I would never ever think about doing in my wildest dreams. And somebody tried to kill me right here in the streets. I had multiple facial fractures. I lost a lot of teeth. I can't use my left hand pretty much at all. I got metal plates in my face and my hand. I was in a coma, and then I was induced into one because I was in such severe pain while healing. I remember the pain I went through, and I would never want to go through any of that ever again. It was probably about 15 years of using, running the streets, and I just knew deep down it was killing me. I just woke up and I heard it was God, you know, and it was me internally in my soul. I just knew I had to surrender. So I surrendered. I turned myself into a detox. And then immediately after that, I came to the Salvation Army ARC. The biggest obstacle was surrender. I always thought some way, somehow that I was in control of everything, but I was in control of absolutely nothing. I just realized I couldn't do it my way, and I needed to let go of my feelings, my emotions, everything, my actions, and I just had to let the rope go. And I just had to ride the wave. Redemption, it means to me that fix something broken and make it look brand new. Where I'm at today is unbelievably wonderful. I mean, life is so good. I thought that none of this would be achievable at any point in time in my life. Life can be so great if you just give it the chance. And it goes with the saying, don't quit before the miracle, because I'm that miracle. I'm one of them anyways.
That was an awe-inspiring story, and I'd like to welcome to the show Captain Lloyd, who's the administrator for the Adult Rehab Program in Hartford. Thank you so much for being here on The Link.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me about Brandon.
As you can see from the video, what a bright, sunshiny disposition for everything that he went through. Mm-hmm. And his story, I mean, I don't know if you could tell from the video, the scars and the brokenness, you know.
I saw his hands.
He was literally left for dead. And he was sharing me how somehow miraculously his life had been spared, you know, several times. And this was the worst of it. You know, he was in a coma and had to learn how to talk and walk again, and really tough life. I think the highlight of my time with Brandon, we did a fashion show, we premiered that video that you just saw at the fashion show, and some ladies dressed him up in Brooks Brothers suit, and he was going to do the catwalk, and somebody took a picture of me and him in an embrace right after he got done with the walk. They shot the video, they showed the video, he did the walk, he came back, and I kissed his cheek, and that is memorialized now. Since then, Brandon ended up passing.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
yeah, he died in a car accident. I know the circumstances, I don't know. But the one thing that I do know is his life was redeemed.
Yes.
And he found peace with the Lord, and what a blessing.
Yes.
Sometimes I think that God is merciful, and that when people finally get on track with the Lord and they pass so soon afterwards, I think that's grace.
Yes, yes, because he had such a difficult life, but he had such happiness in him, as we could see in the video. I'd like you to tell us about the Adult Rehab Center.
Sure.
And you've been, before we do that, let's talk about you for a minute.
All right.
So you've been doing the rehab work for 20 years.
About 15 years in the rehab, maybe a little shy of that. You know, I think 13 years in the adult rehabilitation ministry, and then my wife and I served in the Salvation Army as employees doing shelter work in Boston and Cambridge, Massachusetts for 8 years.
That's not easy
Yeah.
work, none of it, the rehabilitation or the shelter work. But you found it, you know, I didn't realize that one of the ministries of the Salvation Army is the adult rehab. There are so many ministries of the Salvation Army. I did not realize it. But the adult rehab ministry is supported not by government dollars, but it's supported by people who go into the thrift store and purchase items, which you have some fantastic thrift stores around the state, and that's how the rehab is funded.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's been that way for 150 years. The Adult Rehabilitation Ministry at one time was called the Men's Social Service Program. And it's one of the seminal ministries of the Salvation Army. And so you can imagine that this ministry predates nonprofit status. There was no such thing as nonprofit status. And so when the Salvation Army began, how do you fund the ministry? And so the Salvation Army has always been unique about funding a ministry by building a business, right? There's in the old days, they would actually sell stock sometimes and create a business and sell stock and fundraise that way. But for 150 years, the Adult Rehabilitation Ministry has been self-supportive. And it's kind of a unique story. The way it started was they would support it by sending the folks out in wagons in England. There was no municipalities to pick up the trash on the street. And so the folks would go out and they would just pick up the cast-offs. And mostly what they would try to do is bundle wood for firewood and sell the bundles of wood. And that's how they would support the ministry. Somewhere along the line, they said, well, you know, we could fix this chair maybe and get a couple more dollars. And over time, the thrift industry grew.
And it provided job opportunities
Yeah,
as well.
everything.
But before we leave the wagon, where they were picking up the cast-offs along the road, in bad weather, tell us about you've heard the term falling off the wagon, and where did that originate?
Yeah, so in recovery circles, it's synonymous if you're on the wagon to be sober. Mm-hmm. And if you're falling off the wagon, you've lost your sobriety. Mm-hmm. What a lot of people don't know is that term is a Salvation Army term. And the way that it happened was when the Salvation Army came to the United States, a lot of the ministry was done in New York. And there was a place in New York called the Bowery, where the term gutter drunk really originated, where humanity, because of the substance abuse and the alcoholism, would literally be laying on the street. And the head of the Salvation Army in New York was the founder's daughter, told the guys in the Adult Rehabilitation Center, the Men's Social Service, on Thanksgiving, when you go out today, anybody that you find laying in the street, we want you to pick them up and put them on the wagon and bring them back to the Salvation Army, because we don't want anybody laying in the street on Thanksgiving Day, for sure. And so then the guys just picked up that terminology about, you know, falling off the wagon. It was Sally's wagon, though. So, you know, years later, we still sending out the wagon. It just looks like an 18-foot box truck today.
Do you do that?
Yeah, every day.
Every day?
Yeah, 6 days a week. We're out collecting from the public and going to people's houses, taking the donations, going to the collection boxes, and
There's a whole system to that, you know, once you're getting, and most people know about that service, which is wonderful, but I'd like to get back to the program that you run in Hartford.
Yeah.
And if someone makes the decision to walk through the door, what does that mean?
yeah, that's a great question, because the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Program is an intensive program. It's a commitment of at least 6 months. There's 4 phases. We ask people when they're going to come in that they'll live there 24/7 and that they'll commit to going through each of these phases. The first phase is an orientation phase. It's a relax and get to understand where you are and what brought you here and do some of that. And the second phase, it's more about coping mechanisms, learning life skills, really understanding fully your personal history and where you've been and where you want to be. And then we begin the transition in phases 3 or 4 about how can you maintain the disciplines and the lifestyles that you're learning here after you leave here. It's unique because it's a work therapy program. We believe that work is therapeutic. And so the model calls for people, how about this, on their first wake up in the Salvation Army to be fully functioning human beings, get up at 6:30 in the morning and take a shower and go to breakfast and go to chapel for devotions and report to work at 7:30 and work till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, eat supper, and then work on some life skills in the evening.
From day one?
From day one.
What if they need, I had read that there's also triage, doctors, maybe mental health checks, you know, because not everybody may be healthy enough to do that right off.
So yeah, but we do what's known as an intake, obviously before people are accepted to the program.
Okay.
And if they need detox, you know what I mean, we help them get to detox. We follow them through the detoxification process,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they can come to the program once those needs have been met.
Okay.
So we make sure that they have that. We also have partnerships in the building. So if somebody shows up and we notice that, you know, maybe there's some mental health issues or, you know, some psychological issues, so we partner with CRT, Community Renewal Team, and there are actually doctors in the building, you know, that they can see if their prescription needs to be refilled, because a lot of times they come and their scripts aren't filled, you know, we can get those needs met. And then we're located in Hartford, so we're partnered with many agencies in Hartford. You know, we have St. Francis right around the corner if they need to see a doctor, and lots of other agencies.
And the court system as well. I've read that people that are coming, you know, they can choose. Okay,
Yep.
you can. Well, maybe not all can choose, but some can choose. You can either enter this program or you'll have to go here. Tell us about. There was a story that you told. I heard during a radio interview, which I thought was really touching, about a man who was going to have to go to court, and he felt he needed to get his sobriety in check.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, the court does refer folks to us, especially in cases where sobriety is an issue, and maybe the crime isn't so serious and it was related to drug and alcohol abuse. And sometimes the judge will say, "Well, you can go to the Salvation Army, or you can go to jail." And so we had a gentleman who was a little bit of a veteran of the program, and he got himself in some trouble and figured, I'm going to go to the Salvation Army before I got to go to court and try to get myself right. Maybe I'll get a little favor, you know, with the judge. And so the job assignment that we gave the gentleman was sorting books. And he came really excited to me. He's, "Cap, I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you because I had this amazing thing happen to me." I said, "What is that?" And he said, well, I was sorting books. I wasn't too happy about it. I was kind of angry. And the books were, that he was sorting, the box was a giant box about the size of a pallet. And he was trying to reach some books in the bottom. So he jumped in the box and was throwing books out of the box. And don't you know, he came across his own personal Bible that he had written and made notes in the last time he was in jail. And he said, Captain, this is an omen. This is my Christmas miracle, you know. And
Yes,
so,
of course.
He brought that to court with him, you know, and to show the judge that he's in the Salvation Army and that, you know, he found his Bible from when he was in jail. And the judge
Who
said,
could make that up?
yeah, you can take that back with you, you know. So that was
Yeah.
kind of a funny story. But it's interesting that those kind of things happen all the time. You know, there was another gentleman who was really searching, and we've termed these things now God shots. You know, you got a God shot today. And he was really struggling with the religious component of the program. Did I make the right decision to come to the Salvation Army? And do I really believe there's a God? And he was unloading trucks one day and very angrily talking, God, if you're up there, you know, give me a sign. And he said the next box that he picked up, he went to move it and the bottom fell out. And he was just about to start cussing when he noticed laying on the top of the pile of stuff was a picture of Jesus. He said, I got the goosebumps, Cap. I figured, you know what I'm saying? I'm in
Yeah.
the right place. So,
Yeah, I'm in the right
so you got a
place.
God shot.
Yeah. What are some ways that community can be more interactive with your
Sure.
program?
Sure. Listen, we need all the volunteers that we can get. We got more work and more ministry and more needs than it is. You know, the state of Connecticut is in an opiate crisis, and it has one of these stats that's not the most, happy or proud stats. It'd be in the top 10
In the country?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing to be proud of.
Yeah, we lost over 1,000 people in 2017 to overdose, and that's been going up every year since about 2015 or 2014.
Why?
I think there's a mix of unemployment. You know, some of the states, the Connecticut used to be known as the provision state. Everything was made here, you know, right? Everything from buttons to brass. And sometimes you go in these town after town after town that used to be these, you know, really great towns where you could get a job where the grandfather worked and the father worked, and then it's no more. And so, unfortunately, you know, I think that, you know, drugs, especially opiates, you know, have filled this void of employment and, you know, kind of this lack of infrastructure that we see. So I think there's some of that mix that we see in New England, not just Connecticut, but some, you know, New England has that. You know, we just don't have the employment that we had once upon a time, and idle hands, so to speak. The other thing is that opiate is very addictive. And I think a lot of times young people don't know what they're getting into. We had one mother, single mother, and she had a 21-year-old son in the program that started messing around with oxys, you know, as a teenager. And while he was in the program trying to get right, her 16-year-old daughter had overdosed and was in the hospital. And so what the mother was saying to me was, Captain Leo, our town is just overrun. That my son's friend group and that my daughter's friend group is just, it's rampant. And so sometimes we find these cliques. Unfortunately, in Mass, when my wife and I were serving there, they were doing a lot of TV shows because in Southeast Massachusetts and on the Cape where we were serving, so many young people, you know, were getting involved in this.
Let's see the story about Kim, who can shed light on her situation.
My name is Kimberly Alisea, and I am an employee at the Hartford ARC. I was brought up in a very dysfunctional family. At 13, I became a blackout drinker, which turned into IV drug use. Spent the next 25 years trying to get clean, relapsing. I was in and out of jail, living on the streets. Through the years not being able to get clean, the hopelessness got worse because I really believed that I couldn't do it. I had gotten arrested and went to jail, and this was an option to be able to come here. I had come to such a hopeless state in my addiction that when I got clean, I had to do something different. And nothing had worked in the past. So I gave Salvation Army a chance, and I gave God a chance to work in my life. And thank God I did it. When I first came to the Salvation Army, I really didn't know much about God. But after being here for a while and knowing that He could forgive me, I forgave myself and gave it a chance. After being clean for a while, things started to change. My life started to get better. I started to believe that I could do this, that I was a new person and that I could do it. Redemption to me means being able to start over with a clean slate and rebuild your life. Being out there using drugs and on the streets is a very empty, lonely place. And God has just worked miracles in my life. That was the piece in my life that was missing, was God. My life is amazing today. God has redeemed me. I am a new person. He's wiped my slate clean so that I could start my life over again. I don't have to live like that anymore. I don't have to be alone.
So Captain Leo, back to what the community can do to be more involved. You mentioned volunteers before we watched that piece. What kind of volunteer?
So there's several ways. Obviously, we're recycling hundreds and thousands of pounds of stuff. You know, right now in the state of Connecticut, the Salvation Army is recycling about 100,000 pounds of clothes per week in the summertime. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and about 3/4 of that right now, currently this time of year, 60,000 pounds of household goods. We have this term in the thrift industry called bric-a-brac. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. It's everything that's in your house.
Yes.
60,000 pounds of it, you know, to give you an idea that when I sell a tractor trailer load of it, it weighs about 30,000. So 2 tractor trailer loads a week in the state of Connecticut. And the wintertime right now, we're processing about 1,000 pieces of furniture a week. We're all over the state picking up furniture for folks. And in the summertime, it can get over 2,000 pieces a week. So we need just hands-on in the thrift stores, in the donation centers, helping to process that. And then obviously, you know, because we deal with folks in recovery, there's opportunity to volunteer in the program, you know, to mentor, you know, to get involved in an AA or an NA meeting, you know what I'm saying, to come teach a class, to be involved with a life skill if you know that, you know. So sometimes we've had people that have been involved in finances and they want to come in and they want to teach you how, you know, a life skill about how to be smart with your money.
Right.
Sometimes it's about
Healthy cooking.
Right.
Eating right.
Any of these kind of things, you know, that will help to round the experience of the beneficiaries. Yeah.
Right, because without, you know, if you're not having the access to healthy meals, you know, you're not going to be as clear thinking, maybe. And, you know, if you're eating a lot of sugar, you're going to have those highs and lows, which aren't going to help anybody. But, and then, of course, funding.
Yeah, I think, you know, what I would like to say to people is that you have a choice when you donate clothing and when you donate your furniture. And really, if you want to do the most good, there's a lot of opportunities out there today. Some of them are really great, but literally your used clothes could save a life at the Salvation Army. Your used piece of furniture could save a life. So I really would like people to think, especially in-kind donations, you know what I mean?
I do.
To make a choice. You know, every box does good, but where could that bag of clothing do the most good?
And let's talk about your store in Dayville as our time comes to a close here. Dayville, Connecticut has a fantastic store, which we're going to see in a minute, where you've had fashion designers come in, you've had reworking of clothing. It's very much like shopping in a regular store, which is really cool for people to be able to do. And even the wood in there has been repurposed.
Yeah.
So we're going to close with that video, but I want to thank you for being on the link and shedding some light onto all the good work you're doing, and God bless you, and thank you for doing all that you do.
Great, thank you so much.
Absolutely. On behalf of everybody at Nutmeg TV, stay with us, watch the end of this video. Thank you for joining us today.
This is a great store. I think the best we've ever opened in the state. We have worked tirelessly for weeks and weeks on this project. We are very excited to welcome shoppers who were waiting to get in here.
When I came in, I saw all the brand name purses, the brand name shoes, the brand name suits. It really is totally different. This is my first time to go to one as magnificent as this one. It's clean and so organized. Excellent prices. I like all the cake pans all in one, all the fine china all in one, and you just pull the drawers out and everything is so neatly organized. 99 cents for a lot of the jewelry, rings, bracelets and stuff, and some are $1.99, all worth it. It's amazing. I just love this store. Please come. It's amazing here.
As you can see, we built a new concept store here in Dayville, Connecticut. It's all boutique style, so we've created all our fixtures from scratch. Everything's recycled wood and metal. It has a really industrial feel, and we're hoping to excite the public with our new look. Everything is about upcycling today, you know, and recycling. And boy, you know, the Salvation Army's been doing that for 150 years. And so we said, why not, if when we build a new store, we integrate that into the new store? Just give it a feel of that everything here is repurposed. Everything here is us doing the most good. We're going to take stuff, repurpose it, give it new life, and we're going to take the proceeds from that and do that with people, redeem their lives and give them a fresh start. So that's how integrated the Salvation Army is into the thrift industry and the recovery industry. That we're still going around, you know, 150 years later and collecting society's cast-off stuff, so to speak, upcycling it. And I think you can see from this store we're doing it in a very innovative and exciting way that's just taking what we've always done historically and pumping it up just a little bit. So we had a fashion show in the fall. We had 12 of the state's up-and-coming designers take Salvation Army clothes out of the baler, disassemble those clothes, and make new fashion. We're premiering a new designer in our boutique here about every 6 weeks. This designer, what she did was take men's dress shirts, disassemble them, and turn men's dress shirts into cool dresses. And so we have about a half a dozen of these one-of-a-kind creations on display here in the store. It's our new redeemed label, and again offering this micro industry opportunity for designers to really use their artistic talent and recreate high fashion design out of used clothing. We're so excited about this new store and its potential. Come down and see our exciting new boutique. We're located at 730 Hartford Pike, Dayville, Connecticut, right next to the Aldi's and Family Fitness. We're open Monday through Saturday from 9 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. Look forward to seeing you here, and God bless you, and thank you for all your support.